The sport of disc golf has grown like crazy over the last few years. One of the factors in its growth, the disc golf tours. Currently, the biggest tour in disc golf is the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Started in 2016, it has grown bigger and bigger each year. But before the popularity of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, there was the National Tour. Started in 2003, this tour ran tournaments every year all over the US. Until recently, when the Disc Golf Pro Tour absorbed the National Tour to make just one complete disc golf tour. Over the years of disc golf, as the sport has grown, there have been tournaments that come and go, people and players that come and go, most of them remembered for small contributions, but usually those contributions are positive. The story we're about to get into is not one that left a positive note for the community. Instead, this is a story of a failed tour, of bankruptcy, and of how the biggest sports network in the world was involved. During the time of a lot of tours popping up, the American Disc Golf Tour was established. But that's not where our story starts. Instead, it starts with the company behind the tour, Salient Discs, and how both the American Tour and the company of Salient Discs went bankrupt. Starting in early 2012, Salient Discs was established in South Carolina by co-founders Chris Gilgis and Steve Boucher. After coming up with these concepts for the company, they got to work. Their motto, Disc Golf Perfected. Over the course of the next couple years, they would come out with 5 discs to be PDGA approved. Most notable, the Prometheus, an extra wide rim distance driver. The idea behind it to make a disc that had the similar flight path to a mid-range, but the distance of a driver. One of the widest PDGA discs ever approved, and not unlike a lot of other companies, they didn't just want to do discs. In 2014, they came out with their first disc golf shoe, the Salient DGX. Originally called the DG Spec 1, but after further tooling they came out with the DGX, a trail-like shoe meant to be water resistant and help you grip those slippery tee pads. They also came out with a couple disc golf bags as well, a large bag to fit 25 to 35 discs, and a smaller bag for beginners. Salient claimed it was the first medium-sized premium material made bag at its price point of $125. Every review I read on the bag was like, don't buy this, don't buy this. First time I opened it, it fell apart. The discs themselves got a lot of mixed reviews, some people liking them, some didn't. A lot of articles claimed that they had terrible customer service as well as faulty products. Some even claimed that their comments on multiple sites had been deleted by Salient Discs. Slowly over the years they grew, but nothing yet to make a name for themselves except for bad customer service. 2016 would turn out to be a very big year for disc golf. The National Tour was still thriving, but 2 other tours announced their beginnings in 2016. The Disc Golf Pro Tour backed by Vibram Discs' Steve Dodge, and the Disc Golf World Tour backed by Discmania's UC Maresma. Salient Discs needed to make a name for themselves, so they did. In 2016, the American Disc Golf Tour was announced. Co-owners of Salient Discs would take the forefront of the news. With all of these tours being announced, another one wouldn't make that big of a splash, especially being backed by one of the smaller disc golf manufacturers. But Salient Discs had one thing that none of these other tours had. They had a broadcasting deal with ESPN. This was it. This was a big deal. Up until then, disc golf had slowly been growing, but they needed mainstream broadcasting to explode the sport. This was a great way of promoting the American Disc Golf Tour right away. But they had one issue that made a lot of people in the disc golf scene skeptical. The American Tour would be running their events without the biggest governing body in disc golf, the PDGA. Previously, the National Tour had worked alongside the PDGA, as well as both the World Tour and Disc Golf Pro Tour agreeing to also work with them. It was only the American Disc Golf Tour that had decided not to. Their reasoning? The people on the board were their competitors for Salient Discs. On the board at that time included people from Innova Champion Discs and Prodigy. Makes sense from a business standpoint, but the other tours wanted to be neutral and allowed the PGA to be involved. Salient Discs even said that they wanted to be a neutral entity from the American Disc Golf Tour, but they still didn't use the PGA. This isn't the only change. The American Tour would make their own rule set for the events and also change regulations on discs. They said the main changes included changes in the rim width, allowing slightly larger rim discs, as well as allowing discs to now have an open space in the middle of the disc. That's not a disc golf disc anymore. Pretty sure that's a dog toy. They would allow players to use PDGA approved discs, but any further discs to be approved would need to be done by the tour. That included discs that the PDGA had previously turned down, so those discs now had a second chance with the American Tour. All of this added up to a bit of skepticism for the tour itself. Was the American Tour going to compare to the National Tour? At that time, this was the only developed tour in disc golf. So the American Tour may have had skepticism, but they also had a lot of hype, and Big Daddy ESPN backing them. The stage was set for the first event of the tour to get going, set to happen in May in South Carolina at Cobblestone Park Golf Club. The American Open would be the inaugural event for the tour, a 3-day tournament with the final 9 holes to be broadcasted live on ESPN3 with the possibilities of post-highlights being on ESPN2. Salient Discs themselves had some bad reviews going into the tournament, but the American Tour was fresh and there was no issues yet, until the tournament was about to begin. Only 3 of the top 20 players in the world had signed up to play. Players such as Ricky Wysocki, Michael Johansson, and Barry Schultz. Conflicting schedules with the national tour at the time, but that wasn't the only reason. Some players didn't like the hype around the event as well as the reputation of Salient Discs. One story comes out from before the event involving Charlie Goodpasture. After signing up for the event, Charlie was injured and called for a refund from the event for his $299 entry fee. He was told initially that he would receive a full refund. Then he was contacted by the American Tour and told he would receive half. After not receiving any money, he contacted PayPal to try and get his money back. This resulted in the PayPal of the American Tour to be frozen. The tour claims they paid him, Charlie said they never did, and proved it on his PayPal statements. The rule set was shady, the player pool was not up to par, and some of the workings with the players was not appropriate. This all led into the actual event. Once we got to the third day of the event, it was a 3-man race, and not even close at that. Ricky Wysocki and Michael Johansson battling it out with Devin Owens a couple shots back. The final player on the lead card would be co-commentary Barry Schultz. Yep, I said it, co-commentary. During the round, they would swap in a mic to Barry, who would be commentating alongside Billy Crump. A very unique addition to the broadcast. Apart from that, the ESPN coverage was good, the quality was there, it looked like a solid event, except for the scorecard holders from the lead card, local Hooters waitresses. A promise was made by the American Tour that we would see things this tournament we have never seen in disc golf before. The combo of Barry Schultz playing and doing commentary, meanwhile Hooters girls are carrying around the scoreboard. Other than that, there wasn't anything new that they brought to disc golf. The event itself was okay, Ricky won, Johansson came in second, the 3 most notable players on the leaderboard were all right there. Everyone else on the board were not big-name pros, and their scores showed it. 8th place shot even. Ricky won at 29 under. That's an incredible score discrepancy. This would be the start to an incredibly short run from the American Tour. Their next event, Bankruptcy. The American Open would be the only event ever held by the American Disc Golf Tour. They claimed they would run more events in the future, including another pro event and 2 amateur events in 2016. When you look at a comparison to the Disc Golf Pro Tour, in their first year they only ran 6 events, so it wasn't like they were crazy behind them. The American Tour claimed that only running 2 events in 2016 was viable financially due to the plans with ESPN. Planning and such took time and they wanted the tour to be sustainable. Well, it wasn't. In August of 2016, just 3 months after their only event the American Disc Golf hosted, Salient Discs filed for bankruptcy. But they weren't the only ones included in the filing. Alongside Salient Discs was a production company they were involved with. I'm not going to go into super deep detail, but the gist of it is that Salient Discs filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which pretty much means no debtors are allowed to come after your personal assets. A very protective move, both for the American Disc Golf Tour and Salient Discs. This article claims that after a very public dispute over a refund, the Charlie Goodpasture case, was a reason for the backlash that the American Tour received. In 3 months, they ran 1 event, not even close to what they had hyped the tour up to be. The backing of ESPN was not enough to jumpstart the tour. Only 3 months in, and the American Tour was gone before it even got started. The impression it left behind was not what the disc golf community hoped for. Aired on ESPN, this event was not what disc golf was about. Hooters girls carrying scorecards, a tournament where you have a player commentator, and finally, as the last note, bankruptcy for the company backing the tour. Just take it from the Facebook page dedicated to boycotting the American Disc Golf Tour. You reap what you sow. Unfortunately, you couldn't sew a disc golf bag correctly. Kinda funny. This may have been the quick end of the American Disc Golf Tour and of Salient Discs, but it's not the end of the story. The broadcasting rights for the American Tour was still in the hands of ESPN. That means they could do whatever they wanted with the footage from the 2016 American Open. Doesn't mean they did it justice. For anyone who has seen the classic film Dodgeball, you may recognize the announcer's booth for the amazing fictional tournament, ESPN 8, the Ocho. Well, ESPN in real life decided to revamp the fictitious ESPN channel. In August of 2017, the Ocho would air on ESPN, featuring darts, cornhole, roller derby, trampoline dodgeball, arm wrestling, and finally 2 disc sports, Ultimate Frisbee and the American Open. Their tour was finished, Salient Discs had gone bankrupt, and yet they were still getting eyes on them. Well, as many eyes on them that the Ocho provided. A short reign to the shortest disc golf tour ever. A lot of us have watched the national tour. We've been able to see the Disc Golf Pro Tour grow in its years to what it is now. the moments we love, the shots we all remember, it's all possible because of the Disc Golf Pro Tour and by the people who run it. Appreciate the disc golf we get to be a part of now. It could be a lot different. It could be the American Disc Golf Tour running things, but by the things we know about the company, it was going to be pretty rare if they succeeded. The American Disc Golf Tour, a failure in disc golf, a failure in business, and something the disc golf community can look back on and learn from. Thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Plenty of other videos on my channel just like this one, so make sure to check them out. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers.